You are standing at the grocery checkout on a Friday evening, putting a package of deli meat back on the shelf. Not because you do not want it, but because you are desperately calculating if you will still have enough money for gas on Monday if you spend that extra $4.29 right now. You decide against the groceries. You do not even realize you have just made a financial decision your brain has been preparing for over the last 3 days. It sounds like a tiny, insignificant moment, but exactly these quiet moments determine the everyday reality of millions of people. They happen simply because there is no financial buffer, no wiggle room. Between the paycheck arriving on the 15th and the rent being due on the 1st, there is a narrow window of time where every single dollar is allocated and spent before it even arrives. Millions of hardworking people, skilled tradespeople, educators, office workers go to work every single day, yet have absolutely nothing left over at the end of the month. National statistics often claim that average household savings rates look relatively solid, sitting around 11% of disposable income. But averages lie. Economic research constantly shows that the lower half of the population possesses almost zero net wealth. The median wealth in many supposedly rich regions is shockingly low. The primary reason for this is no secret. Homeownership rates in these areas are incredibly low. While citizens elsewhere build generational wealth through real estate, the vast majority of working professionals here pay rent, effectively building their landlord's wealth instead of their own. But today is not about real estate. Today is about a specific number, $20,000. It is about why this exact number represents a magical financial boundary where absolutely everything shifts in your head, your bank account, and your life. But to understand the summit, we must start at zero, or what central banks clinically refer to as the liquid assets of the bottom 20%. We are talking about people who have less than $1,000 left in their checking account after the rent is paid. Rent for a basic 2-bedroom apartment in any major city easily swallows $850 to $950. Add utility bills, mandatory insurance, and a transit pass because owning a car became too expensive years ago. Whatever remains goes entirely to groceries, buying the absolute cheapest store brands, ruthlessly comparing discounts, and keeping a running tally of the receipt in your head. In this constant state of financial stress, something profound happens to your thinking. Behavioral economists call it the scarcity mindset. Financial scarcity literally reduces your cognitive bandwidth. You make worse decisions not because you lack intelligence, but because your brain is completely overloaded with short-term survival problems. When you finally manage to scrape together $3,000, it feels like monumental progress, but it is an entirely fragile progress. Today, $3,000 is exactly one broken washing machine, one unexpected car repair, and one urgent dental bill away from zero. 3 unplanned expenses, and your entire hard-earned buffer is completely wiped out. You are back at square one. And the feeling of defeat is actually worse than before, because you know exactly how many months of sacrifice it took to build it. Your bank statement tells a story you desperately do not want to hear. Should you postpone the dentist appointment? Should you pay utilities in installments? Every single micro decision costs you mental energy. Energy that is now missing for long-term planning. The people who need long-term thinking the most are the ones who can least afford it. Once you finally cross the $5,000 mark, something begins to change. You physically feel it. For the first time, you have a real, functional emergency fund. The washing machine can break down without causing you to stare at the ceiling all night. You start making decisions based on rational thought rather than pure, unadulterated fear. It is a subtle, but incredibly powerful difference. Even though $5,000 in a high-yield savings account earning a standard 3.3% interest rate only brings a few dollars a month, your money is finally working for you, even if it only whispers. Between $5,000 and $10,000, a massive psychological transformation occurs. You begin to see yourself as a person capable of saving money. Identity controls our behavior far more effectively than willpower ever could. As long as you view yourself as bad with money, you will subconsciously make financial choices that prove that negative self-image right. But the moment a 5-figure sum is within arm's reach, Your internal narrative fundamentally shifts. You skip that expensive third coffee to go, not because you are terrified of sabotaging your grocery budget, but because you actively want to protect your growing wealth. The outward action is identical, but the internal motivation has changed completely. Then comes the phase that demands the strictest discipline, the gap between $10,000 and $20,000. You finally have enough cash to feel secure, which ironically makes this stage incredibly dangerous. The temptation to reward yourself grows in direct proportion to your bank balance. A brand new smartphone, a lavish vacation, designer furniture, every single expense seems perfectly reasonable on its own. But combined, giving into lifestyle inflation will throw you back down the mountain exactly when you are closest to crossing the most important threshold. This crucial testing ground determines whether you remain part of the struggling majority who stumble at the finish line or whether you finally break through. And then, one day, you stand there with $20,000 securely sitting in your account. This is where the game fundamentally changes. Not because $20,000 makes you rich, it certainly does not, but because at this specific level, money buys you time. Depending on your living situation, $20,000 represents roughly 4 to 6 months of absolute living expenses. Even 3 months is a time horizon that changes absolutely everything. If you lose your job tomorrow, you do not panic. You have room to breathe and orient yourself. You do not send out desperate applications to the very first toxic job offer that comes your way. You wait for the position that actually fits your career goals. Your negotiation power transforms entirely. There is another profound, unspoken effect. The way other people react to you actually changes. It is not about showing off. It is about your aura and quiet confidence. You negotiate your salary completely differently when you know deep down you could easily survive for half a year without a single paycheck. You walk into bank meetings with a completely different posture. The peace of having $20,000 radiates into areas having absolutely nothing to do with finance. You sleep deeply. You go to the doctor proactively instead of delaying treatments. Sudden life emergencies are downgraded to mere inconveniences. Your interest grows completely tax-free under standard capital gains allowances. And at this level, a new door finally opens. The door to true, systematic investing. I am not talking about the wildly speculative trading your coworker brags about on their lunch break. I am talking about the boring, beautiful investing that actually builds generational wealth. You can confidently place a portion of your money into a broadly diversified global index fund through an automated savings plan. The historical average return of global markets over the last 30 years hovers around 7 to 8% annually. Suddenly, your money grows exponentially. Do the math. $10,000 invested at a 7% average annual return becomes nearly $19,700 in 10 years, without you lifting a finger. By consistently adding just $300 a month to that portfolio, after 20 years, you will be looking at nearly $190,000. It is not magic, it is simply mathematics. But this mathematics only works when your cash buffer ensures you never have to liquidate investments to pay a sudden utility bill. So, how do you actually get there? Step 1. Brutal clarity. Take 3 days to manually write down every single dollar you spend using printed bank statements. Do not rely on automated apps you will quickly ignore. Most people easily discover between $200 and $400 of invisible monthly spending. They didn't realize they were making random takeout, convenience store snacks, and impulsive online orders. Step 2. Strict automation. On the exact day your paycheck arrives, an automated transfer must instantly move a fixed amount into a separate savings account you cannot easily see when logging into your daily checking account. Out of sight, out of mind. Step 3. Increasing income. Cutting expenses has a mathematical floor, but your earning potential has no ceiling. Negotiate a raise, learn a high-income skill, or start a weekend side hustle. Every additional dollar shortens the distance to your goal. Make no mistake, the journey from $0 to $20,000 is the hardest, most exhausting financial climb you will ever endure. The first few months will feel like you are barely moving. Saving $200 a month means you only have $2,400 after a full year. It looks like nothing, and this is exactly the phase where most people give up entirely. But if you simply refuse to quit, within 3 to 4 years, you will conquer a summit that once felt impossible. We rarely talk honestly about money in our society. It is considered taboo or impolite, but that silence ensures millions of people feel entirely alone in their financial struggles. You are not alone. Start building your buffer today, dollar by dollar, month by month, until the solid ground beneath your feet finally holds you up again. Until next time.